with ASDS tonight on another True Skin Experts Live. I am just going to look for Dr. Day. Give me one moment. There she is. So as we're waiting for Dr. Day to join us, I am Dr. Noëlle Sherber. I'm a board-certified dermatologist in Washington, D.C., and there she is. Hi.
How are you?
I am well, thank you. I'm just adjusting this. Can you see me and hear me?
Yes. I can
Awesome.
see you and hear you.
Wonderful. You look lovely, and I love seeing the city sunset behind you.
Oh yeah, it's New York City, beautiful sunset. I don't know if you can see the Chrysler Building, but it's back there somewhere.
Yeah.
It's my claim to fame of view over here.
Oh, beautiful. New York City is showing off tonight. Looks great. Well, I see
Yes.
we have a lot of people joining us, which is wonderful. We're so glad to be doing this. And thank you, Dr. Day, for your time tonight. This is going to be super
Oh no,
fun.
thanks for doing this. I love watching the other shows. I'm so happy to get to do it with you too.
Well, I will introduce you, although you need no introduction. Dr. Doris Day is one of the real luminaries in our field of dermatology. And to tell a personal story, I was at medical school doing research before my dermatology residency. I was working at Good Morning America, and Dr. Day came in to be interviewed for a segment and was so eloquent and represented our specialty so well. And I just felt such pride as someone who was going to be a dermatologist one day to see Dr. Day representing specialty with so much nuance. And so it's great to be here together tonight, sort of a full circle moment, talking about a really hot topic at the moment. So Dr. Day is in New York City. She has her own very storied practice in Manhattan and has won many teaching awards, many dermatology awards, and has a degree in journalism, not only in medicine and dermatology. So I thought I might just jump in. Can you hear me okay? Your picture a little fuzzy. What
Oh,
is
I
it?
can hear you perfectly. Am I okay? Am I coming in and out?
Can
Can you hear
anyone
me?
watching tell me Dr. Day? Everyone's giving thumbs up. Okay, good. Perfect. I never know with Instagram Live. So our topic this evening is one that was really timely, I think, because we are a year and a half into this really wild season on planet Earth. And so we're going to be talking about the mind-body connection as it pertains to health and dermatology. So Dr. Day, to kick us off, because we're going to talk about wellness and stress reduction, what has been your happiest summer memory so far?
Oh, my happiest summer memory is really just getting to spend time with the kids and the family. So just staying put a little bit, staying local, but I love the longer days and the warmer weather. So I'm a real summer girl, so I love the summer seasons. Can you hear me okay? No?
I think we're getting people commenting frozen and blurry.
Oh, I'm frozen and blurry?
I
Let's
think people are
see. I'll see
commenting.
if I can. I went off. Hold on one second.
Okay. That looks better to me.
Is
Is
that
that
better
better
now?
for everyone? Yes. Okay, good. We don't want to miss a word. So
Okay.
could you say that again? Talking
Okay,
about
good.
your happy
So
summer.
my summer memory is just kind of being around more. I started an indoor garden in my living room, so I'm growing tomatoes and vegetables and orange trees. So I'm kind of becoming a country girl at home and just being with family and sort of taking it a little bit slower.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And along the lines of doing things we enjoy, can you talk us through a little bit what you're doing to take care of yourself, maybe take care of your skin, any little personal tips there?
Well, you know, it is really a marathon. It's not a sprint. So, and every day is kind of a sprint in that marathon, right? So every day is like a new opportunity to take those right steps. And it's really what you do from the inside and what you do from the outside. So it starts with having a healthy diet, trying to drink enough water, getting enough sleep, minimizing alcohol, and trying to make those things fun. You know, it sounds like, oh my God, there's no fun in that. But in reality, when you make those changes, when you have less sugar in your diet and you get enough sleep and you think more clearly, it's amazing how good that feels and how inspiring that is internally. And then when you get compliments because your skin looks better, that's the icing on the cake. So I regularly do intermittent fasting, at least a minimum of 14 hours a day, and I try to go to 20 at least 2 days a week. And then when I break my fast, I break it in a healthy way. And I try hard to have a healthy diet, but I'm also not a purist. So I think once in a while, those French fries and chips and sugary things are okay if you feel like it. And sometimes I do. So it's really having that mix of just an overall balance. And I got a Peloton around COVID, so I've been riding my bike more. And because I cut my hair short, I can now ride my bike and then blow dry my own hair. So I think that's a thing that's really hard, is sort of having that lifestyle that's conducive to those things you want to do. I walk to and from work every day, so that for me is very therapeutic, but it's not really exercise. It's good for the mind, but you need to do aerobic and you need to do weights, especially as you get older. And the younger you start, the better you age. So it's a daily basis, sun protection every day, great antioxidant products on your skin, making that routine kind of fun. I'm always experimenting with new products and I'm building a product line, but I'm always trying out products and I do a lot of consulting for other companies. So I find that using ingredients that are high quality, really good for your skin makes a difference. And I see the difference in my patients when they follow those same guidelines. They come in and I can tell when they're taking better care of their skin on a holistic level.
We have someone in the comments asking for your Peloton leaderboard name.
Asking for my leaderboard name. Oh, on my thing. Oh, I think right now I'm Derm Darling, but okay. Don't follow that. It's kind of embarrassing. I'm never the leader on the board, so I'm happy to be on the bike and not fall off the bike from exhaustion. So I try to hide that leaderboard, but yeah, I think right now I'm Derm Darling until I come up with something better. So anybody has ideas for names, message me.
I will ask later. Such a good segue. Can you talk a little bit about how we understand from science that exercise can actually benefit our skin?
Absolutely. We are always learning more. Science is something that we always have to question. It's always evolving, and things we think we know today we can be so sure of, tomorrow we're going to find out differently. And I think on exercise, it's kind of a sandwich. On the one side, there's not enough, but there's also the other side where it is an addiction as well, and there can be too much. I have some patients who are literally addicted to exercise and they over-exercise, and I think that's as destructive as not exercising enough. It's not most people's problems, but it's still something to think about, that there is a thing as too much exercise. But what happens when you exercise? It's on multiple levels. It's vascular, so just blood vessels dilating, bringing more nutrition. It's oxygen exchange. It's mental in that it's really good for your mind and it's relaxing. There's so many hormones, and many of which we don't even really fully understand, that are upregulated. And then there's also metabolism and just cell turnover. So there's so many different levels at which exercise is good. Now, if you're prone to rosacea, that's not quite the same, right? So exercise may not be ideal if you get super hot and you're prone to rosacea. You can see that flushing. But it's the one thing I don't tell my patients who have rosacea to give up. I tell them exercise is not the one way you want to manage your rosacea. Keep your exercise going, but try to keep your core temperature cool at the end. Like, drink a glass of cold water. Don't go from an extreme. Just kind of gradually cool your core temperature back down. But maybe skip the hot yoga, or don't go in the sauna afterwards. So there's other ways around exercise that you can modify to help control your rosacea if you like to exercise or need to exercise and have rosacea. But otherwise, exercise, when something is good for your other organ systems, chances are it's good for your skin. And if you see that your skin looks healthier and more beautiful, chances are your other organ systems are benefiting as well. So when I see beautiful, healthy, glowing, radiant skin, I'm pretty sure that it's also helping your liver, your kidneys, your brain, every organ in your body, your muscles and other organs as well. So your skin is really a powerful reflection of your overall health and well-being. And that's why I love being a dermatologist. I did internal medicine before derm, and when I would tell patients to stop smoking, they'd say, lung cancer, emphysema, that's later. But when I say, oh, you'll have less lines around your eyes and better skin tone, they're like, okay, I quit smoking. So, and I had a 17-year-old who came in, and I could tell that she smoked, and I had a magnifier, and I went in close with her skin, and I said, do you smoke? And she said, yeah. And I looked at her skin, and I said, if I can see changes in your skin, you're not meant to be a smoker. And she was really concerned about appearance. So that's what I love about appearance. It's not frivolous. It's not vanity. It's really a reflection of the rest of you. And so we as dermatologists can help our patients live healthier, happier, longer lives by helping them understand that connection between their skin and their body.
And viewing our skin as a very valuable source of information about what's on the inside. In dermatology, of course, we diagnose all sorts of internal conditions from what we can see on the outside. And
absolutely.
In preparing for our conversation tonight, I was reading your book, Beyond Beautiful, which
thank you.
Watching should really pick up. It's a great resource. And along the lines of exercise being so good for us, I thought you made a wonderful point that the one potential downside is that outdoor exercise can bring with it a lot of sun exposure. Do you have any tips, especially in this hot, humid weather, for people to stay protected when they're exercising?
So one of the things is to try to exercise earlier or later in the day, right? So avoiding midday sun is very helpful. Other things that you could do are make sure you apply sunscreen and carry a powder for reapplication. So if you're exercising for extended periods of time outdoors, you can reapply a powder if you don't feel like reapplying the liquid. And also, it tends to not irritate the eyes as much. It tends to set where you put it and not get in the eyes and bother you. Wear a hat if you can. A baseball cap is mediocre, but it's better than nothing. A broad-brimmed hat is better. If there's possibility to be in the shade, try to be in the shade as much as you can as well. And don't be mistaken about the sun. I really call it daylight screen because I see the worst sunburns on cloudy days. And so you have to figure that if you're outdoors, you're getting exposure to UV rays. And if you look at our athletes, our Olympic athletes, the ones like the beach volleyball players have great bodies, but they also have accelerated aging of their skin. So if you look at, the sun doesn't really care, and skin cancer doesn't really care how fit and healthy you are and how much you exercise. If the sun is hitting your skin, your intentions are irrelevant. You could be Mother Teresa doing God's work and you will fry in the sun. So you have to be careful to protect your skin from UV rays day in and day out. And if you use an SPF 100, you're not getting 100% protection. So you still have to apply enough, reapply it regularly. And if you're swimming or sweating it off, you need to reapply it more often. And then enjoy your time outdoors. Then don't worry about it. Do your best and then enjoy. I love the sun. I love being outdoors. But I just try to be smart about it. So I call it being sun smart. And protect your eyes as well, because we know melanoma can occur in the eyes. And especially if you have light eyes, it's important to protect your eyes as well with sunglasses.
Wonderful. So talking on a big review level, can you go through some of the science around what happens to our skin as we age?
So as we age, there's a couple of things that happen. One is that cumulative exposure to UV rays. So your first exposure from childhood all the way to wherever you are right now, you've accumulated under the skin a series of hits to the skin, a series of insults, I call them, where you have breakdown of collagen. And these are pathways that are understood very well. So we know that there are specific mutations that can happen. There's specific breakdown of collagen. And if we take a slice of skin and we stain it, and we look at sun-damaged skin versus sun-protected skin, we stain the collagen, it stains purple. So healthy collagen are these beautiful waves of like violet. And when you look at premature age, sun-damaged skin, it's these clumps of very miserable, useless, dark purple globs. And that's sun-damaged skin. Now, when you lose that collagen and elastin in your skin, then your skin starts to have wrinkles. So when you see a line or a wrinkle, it's from two different things. One is from constant UV exposure over time or chronic UV exposure. And the second is repetitive motion. So when you have repetitive motion, you also create a fold or a bend. And the skin at the bottom of that wrinkles is different than the skin at the top. It's weaker and it's more damaged, and it becomes the path of least resistance. So continued motion is going to continually weaken that one same spot and increase that wrinkle or fold. And then everybody comes in and they say that same line. They say, one day my skin just fell apart. So it's kind of like that Bounty paper towel commercial where they hold that paper towel under water and they keep putting stuff on it and it holds it, and all of a sudden it falls apart. Your skin kind of does that. It looks fine on the surface, but underneath there's all of these things happening with matrix metalloproteinases and all these enzymes that are breaking down collagen, which we really understand well. And then when you add in, as we age, loss of estrogen, then we see an acceleration of that process. And we see increased collagen breakdown, increased skin wrinkling. And your skin does its best to protect by creating melanin. So when you get exposed to UV rays, your skin cells, the keratinocytes, start to get attacked by the DNA of those skin cells. Is it being attacked by those UV rays, both UVA and UVB? So the melanin, the melanocytes, which are the pigment forming cells that give your skin color, start to perk up and make melanin to kind of sit like a parasol over the DNA of those skin cells, and that's what you see as a tan. So in order to create a tan, you end up having to do damage. So a tan now is a wrinkle later, and if you're unlucky, it's also skin cancer later. So I always tell my patients, nothing looks more beautiful in your 50s than sun protection in your 20s. Because I was trying to find all these ways to reach them, to get them to understand that when you're young, how much more beautiful are you going to be, right? You've got great genetics if you're lucky, right? You're at the peak of your beauty just by youth alone. And so for 5% more beauty now, you're losing 50% of your beauty later. And trust me, at 50, it's more work to look beautiful than it is at 20. So you want to optimize your beauty over time. The single most powerful thing you can do is try to protect against UV damage, because that's 90% of how your skin ages is from UV rays. 10% is all this other stuff we spend money on, all these products and ingredients. All of that is to prevent or undo damage, mostly from ultraviolet sun exposure.
I've seen you say before, I always love that, sure, some people can smoke and not get cancer, and some people can and not get wrinkles. It's probably not you.
Yeah, when I came up with that, that's when I was walking to work one day and I was thinking, you know, some people can eat and not get fat. Some people can smoke and not get cancer. Some people can go in the sun and not wrinkle. It's probably not you. Yeah, that was one of my favorite lines. I crack myself up sometimes and then I have to share it with everyone else. But yeah, that was a fun one. But thanks for remembering that one.
One of our viewers was asking, since we're talking about sun damage, about your favorite approaches to treating brown spots.
Yeah, so brown spots come from that pigment formation and from some of that protection, and it can be very uneven. So there's lots of ways. You can use a thulium laser, a 1927 laser. You can use a Q-switch laser. You can try chemical peels. I love skincare as a first approach, and every patient that comes into my office gets recommendations for a skincare routine, whether it's drugstore products that I have, or prescription products, or a combination of those. So whatever price point you're at, there are products that can help your skin even out skin tone. I'm not a big fan of spot correctors when it comes to brown spots. I really think that where you see a brown spot, the whole area is sun damage. And a lot of these correctors of uneven pigment are smart. They're more selectively absorbed in areas where you're making more pigment. And so it helps to put it on the whole face generally, or the whole area. Somebody asked a question about my position on hormone replacement. And so I'm a huge fan of hormone replacement therapy for women who are good candidates for it. And many women are. It's always a conversation to have with your doctor. I actually think that at some point it's going to be even considered malpractice to not have the conversation, because we now have bioidentical, synthetically made bioidentical hormone replacement, whether it's estrogen and progesterone, so it's about not going through the process, not about falling behind and trying to catch up. So I don't prescribe it because I don't follow it. It's not my area of expertise, but I do talk about it a lot with my patients and refer them to OBGYNs or functional medicine doctors or even endocrinologists who know how to prescribe it. For that woman who's not a good candidate for hormone replacement, then we work around it. Then we find ways to use growth factors and peptides and be really smart about sun exposure, and we do our best, and they can still do great. So if you can't do hormone replacement, if you're not a good candidate for it, don't worry. There's still a lot you can do, but be very, very careful to be sun smart.
And we spoke about sun exposure. Are there other ways that we can change the trajectory of how skin ages?
Yep. So I have a line that I say that you can eat your sunscreen, and then I realized I should be careful about saying that because people think you can literally eat sunscreen. But there's lots of studies that show a Mediterranean diet. So one that's high in fatty fish, vegetables, olive oil, antioxidant foods will have an impact in helping how your skin ages. It lowers your risk of skin cancer and also improves skin aging. So those antioxidants, basically what they are what we get from plants. So we're humans and we have legs. So we're supposed to be smart enough to move out of the sun and out of danger. We can walk, we can move, but plants cannot. So when you think of like, what's the worst place for a plant to grow or anything to grow? I always think of the desert, right? Mm-hmm. It's totally dry. There's no water, and it's sand, which doesn't even have any nutrition, and it's sun all day long, hot, and then cold at night. And yet a cactus can thrive in that environment, be full of water, and make these gorgeous flowers. So that cactus is packed with antioxidants. So every time you see those colors found in nature, and Cheetos is not a color found in nature, sadly, but when you see those colors found in nature, those berries and the fruits and the green leafy vegetables, each of those is carrying so much power for healing and protection for us when we eat them, but they need to be grown properly. Mm-hmm. They're covered in pesticides. That's not ideal. If they're altered for growth and for protection against pesticides, I don't think that NGO is so bad. I think it's bad if it's designed for the plants to survive, not for the plant to be optimally nutritious for us. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking in the future we're going to have lots of hydroponic farms, which is where they grow plants just in nutrients and no soil, and we can have the healthiest plants in that way and the healthiest food. So eating food that are well grown in soil that's nutritious will give you a great healthy diet. And since it's not that easy to do that, I do think that there are some supplements that can be helpful. And ones that I like quercetin, which is a bioflavonoid. It's what's found in orange juice and grapefruit juice. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I think is worth taking. Vitamin D, I think, is one of the most important ones to get as a supplement. And then other ones, vitamin C you can get from foods, and too much vitamin C can be a problem if you're prone to kidney stones. So I warn against too much vitamin C. A little bit of zinc is good, like zinc piconolate 50 milligrams is a good idea for many people. And I always say, talk to your doctor about this. What other supplements do I think are really good? I think those are the main ones that I think are really helpful, besides eating a healthy diet. And I think intermittent fasting is also really good for your skin and for your body. And we know that there are cycles of how your body digests and metabolizes food. So besides eating the right foods, eating foods in a right time frame is also important. And my dad raised me this way. We were always taught never to eat after 8 o'clock at night, and we didn't have our next, and usually it was more like 6 o'clock at night, and then we had our next meal in the morning. So getting into that healthy habit, it's healthy diet hygiene, healthy skin hygiene, healthy sleep hygiene. All of those really have an impact on how your skin ages, and a lot of how your skin looks is related to facial expression. So we know that studies have shown that facial expression is tied to emotion as much as emotion is tied to expression. So when somebody is sad or angry or happy, for example, that will show in your face. And I had frozen shoulder a few years ago, and I was in so much pain all the time. And I looked in the mirror and I was like, God, it's showing in my facial expression. No matter how much I tried to relax my face, the pain came through. And you don't realize how much you can't control that. But where you can control it is by teaching yourself facial exercises, and I call that facial posture. So literally by either smiling or learning to pull your ears back, it's one of my favorite exercises. Not only do you age better, because you can't move in two directions at once. You can't frown and smile at the same time. It's impossible, right? Laws of physics. So if you're pulling your ears back, it's kind of a smile without this part. It's just the ear back part of the smile. And that can help you feel better, feel happier, and also help lift your face and have a double effect. So there's a lot that you can do that you have control over, but when you take care of those basics, like staying well hydrated and getting enough sleep and trying to have as healthy a diet as possible, that gets you really 3/4 of the way along that positive and youthful aging, or aging backwards even, process.
Since you mentioned sleep, one of the questions I received leading up to our conversation tonight was a question about beauty sleep. Is that a real thing? Can we sleep?
About beauty sleep? Oh yeah. If you did one thing that was like super easy and free, it would be getting enough sleep. Now, the thing is, you can't bank sleep. So you can't sleep 10 hours one day because you're going to sleep 3 hours the next day and figure it averages out. You can't do that. You can catch up to some extent. So if you have a night where you just didn't sleep enough, or you couldn't because you were working or you were busy, then you can catch up a little bit. But at some point, that deficit ends up adding up. So you can only catch up so much on the other side. Taking cat naps is not a bad idea. So that if you find that you can't get a full night's sleep, sleeping 6 hours if you can, and then an hour or two cat nap, or even a half-hour cat nap or less, all of that does have a positive impact. But it's not by accident that we tell people that you look well rested as a compliment and as a way of saying you look beautiful. It's really because that is a beautiful look, and it shows in both your facial expression and also in your skin quality. Now, we know that one thing we cannot live without is sleep. There's no pill, cream, treatment, nothing that we can do that's going to replace what sleep does for you. So we have to sleep in order to survive. And when you deprive rats of sleep, they die of infection. So we know that when you sleep, you have increased growth hormone. We know that there's healing going on. Sleep is not downtime. It's a very active process. And we know that in your skin, when you sleep, you lose more water from your skin. So there's a lot going on in your skin. And that's why I have different skin routines for at night than I have for during the day.
I see someone in the comments is asking about finding a wonderful dermatologist like you in Michigan, and ASDS has posted the finder on their website, which is asds.net/find, to locate an ASDS member dermatologist near you.
Absolutely. That is the place to go, asds.net, and you'll see Find a Physician there. And I'm so proud to be part of the ASDS. I have found this organization to be one of the most caring, and it's a small organization that does very big things, and it's growing quickly. I mean, it's not that small an organization, but compared to a lot of our other derm societies, it's just such a well-honed organization that focuses on the importance of being a true skin expert. So we're all board certified dermatologists, and we are all very committed to making sure that our patients and the public are aware of what is important in the skin, having accurate information and knowing what is hype and what's real. And the amount of information they give, if you go to asds.net, is so helpful. Like whether you're a physician or you're a consumer or a potential patient, if you go to asds.net, it is packed with information that's so important and useful. And it's also up to date. So there's a lot of cutting edge information. When you learn about COVID skin reactions, you'll find the information on the ASDS website. So I always recommend everybody go there and look for both physicians and information that's helpful for you.
Wonderful. And we're already halfway through our time. So if anyone's joined us a little bit into our session, I'm Dr. Noëlle Sherber, board certified dermatologist in Washington, D.C., talking with the legendary Dr. Doris Day in New York City. We've watch the sunset behind you, which was beautiful. And I'll dive into some more questions here. So you referenced someone being told, you look tired as a way of saying you did your best. Can you talk to all of us a bit about what we know regarding stress and effects that are very visible and tangible in our skin and body?
Right. So in my book, in Beyond Beautiful, that you were talking about, I put a lot of emphasis on stress. And stress is an important factor to consider, but it's also a very annoying word because stress is everything and everywhere. And it's kind of one of those wastebasket terms that we use. But at the same time, to me, it's if you go past the word stress and you go, okay, stress. But now let's focus in on exactly what kind of stress, because you can break it down. And I've noticed that people with hair loss often have different types of stress than people who have acne breakouts. They handle the stress differently. And it's so interesting over 20 years to observe what happens. So on a basic level, stress affects your cortisol level. Cortisol level affects everything, and in a positive and negative way. So we, at the end, are about survival. And when we have stress, it's really about our survival on an instinctual DNA level. So that's the problem with it, is that it hasn't evolved as much as we've evolved. And so you still get that fight or flight reaction. And when it comes to hair, for example, which was one of the biggest things I was seeing around COVID, what happened was that people would have this uncertainty, which is the hardest thing to manage, because bad news is almost better than that uncertainty. Because with any news, when you know what's going to happen, you'll process and you'll figure it out and you'll get around it. But if you looked at hair loss before COVID, what I noticed is that people who had hair loss were almost being pulled in too many directions at once. They were people who tended to be very capable, who tended to be able to problem solve really well, and they were pleasers. They wanted to make sure that if they were at their work, if people needed them to get stuff done, they would get stuff done. People at home, family and friends needed stuff, they would always be there for everybody. And they didn't really take into account their own core needs. And so that's why I say they were pulled in too many directions. Once you take into account what your needs are and what you're about, oftentimes everything else we do for hair starts to get better. So as dermatologists, while there are prescriptions and things we can do, one of the most important things we do is speak with our patients and get a really good history and understand what is going on in their world to help direct them much better so they can balance out, and those treatments we give can both work better and they won't need medications as much or for as long. I had a patient who came in once with a rash around her eyes, and I walked in the room and this was somebody that I knew, and she wouldn't make eye contact. She was looking down, and as I asked her more questions, it turned out that she had moved in with her boyfriend and they both had kids, and when his kids would come over, it was very disruptive. But she didn't want to upset him and she didn't want to break the relationship, and she didn't know how to talk to him. So she's literally rubbing her eyes all the time because she literally didn't want to see what was going on or for him to see what she was really feeling. And so when we talked about that in the context of also giving her medications to help this irritant contact dermatitis around her eyes, the rash cleared and never came back. And even better, she was able to then understand that she needed to go deal with that. I wasn't analyzing her. I wasn't being a therapist. I was simply pointing out that there was something in her life that was affecting her and bringing this on. And the best way I could give long-term relief for her was to help her figure out that pathway towards understanding it and having resolution for it. So these things happen all the time. Sometimes you see quick resolution, like you use a cream around the eyes, you learn to deal with it. But with hair loss, when you have that stressor, there's a lag. So you can't say, okay, what happened yesterday? My hair is falling out today, because your hair grows in cycles. It has a growth phase, a resting phase, and then the shedding. And then it grows back around. So the growth phase is 2 to 10 years. The resting and falling out phase are 3 to 4 months. So when you go through a stress shedding, it shifts from the growing to the resting phase. So it's going to be 3 to 4 months before you notice that hair loss. And that's not true hair loss. It's hair shedding. The hair grows back, But if you keep going through that stress without addressing it, it's going to keep shedding. And it ends up feeling like a net loss. So we need to break the cycle. And we're never going to break the cycle unless we work together with our patients to help them understand the cause of this cycle. And sometimes it means directing them to a proper therapist, but sometimes it's not as complicated as simply helping them understand that it's there and that there are small things they can do that can have a huge impact. And on top of that, then we use medications and topicals and in-office treatments as appropriate in combination with it. But it's never just one thing or another. I happen to really not like drugs. So I try to get my patients off medications as much as possible. And somebody is saying that on Dr. Radio, I talk about the off-label use of minoxidil for brows. And it's actually one of my favorite places to use minoxidil, the 5% drops on the brows, because it just helps brows grow. I don't know why they don't do the FDA trials to get the approval, because it would be such a great market for them. And you can just buy the 5% men's concentration. And if your hair can grow back, that will help it grow back. Sometimes I add in Latisse as well, but I find the minoxidil 5% liquid works really well by itself.
And you and I each wrote your book. One of our ASDS colleagues edited, Dr. about psychology and aesthetics.
Yeah.
So for anyone watching who's thinking about seeing a dermatologist, I think Dr. Day and I would each encourage you, if you can, feel comfortable sharing a bit of the context of what's going on, because so often your dermatologist can pick up clues from that. You know, as you mentioned, your patient had a stressful home situation. If you hadn't about that, you might not have been able to be as helpful. So I think those details are all so important. And someone commented asking, if one is experiencing hair loss, which sorts of questions should you ask your doctor?
Well, one of the things is that I don't think most doctors find helpful is to bring in the hair. So patients, it makes the patient feel better, and if it makes you feel better, that's fine. You can bring in the hair, but for the doctor, it really wasn't so helpful. The supplement I mentioned was quercetin, but the things that you could ask your doctor, well, one is to take a history of yourself. How long have you been having hair loss? Where in your scalp is it? Is it anywhere else on your body besides your head? And then think about what's been going on, not just now, but over the past 6 months. Because like I said, with stress shedding, there's a lag. Also family history. We know that androgenetic alopecia, which is a very common cause of hair loss, comes, and that's a hereditary hair loss, and there's different patterns for men and women. That can come from either the mom's or the dad's side, or if you're really lucky, it can come from both sides of the family. And that can start as early as in your teens sometimes. So that can be an issue. So those are the things we're looking at. If you have any other illnesses, that's important. If you're taking medications, listing out your medications is helpful, because some medications can contribute to hair shedding, and those are things we want to take into account as well. If you process your hair or blow dry, or things that you do to your hair or have done to your hair over the years, those are things that we'd like to know about as well. Pregnancy. Were you recently pregnant, or did you have any surgeries within the past 6 months to a year? That's also information that's helpful for us to know. And so I think that's about it. I don't know if there's other questions I missed, but that's the main thing.
Wonderful. So building on our discussion about the effects of stress on the skin, what are some of your favorite stress strategies, or what do you recommend to your patients?
Well, I have a lot of patients lately who are grinders. They have a lot of TMJ, and you can see their masseters, these muscles along the jawline that we use for chewing. So mastication, masseters, those muscles overgrow. And I can sometimes walk in the room and say, oh my God, this person is really stressing, and they're grinding. And there's a difference between grinding and clenching. So when they grind, you see the masseters. When they clench, you can see the masseters, these muscles down here, but also the temporalis, the muscles in the temple region bulging. So sometimes things like a neuromodulator like Botox can help treat that. And sometimes it's just really exercises. So if someone is grinding or clenching as their way of stressing, I tell them to learn to sigh more. So just trying a sigh is really helpful. It does a couple of things. It cools the brain, because that breathing and that oxygen cools the brain. It also gives you a moment to pause and think. When you clench or grind, you're actually holding your breath and you're depriving yourself of oxygen, which is not healthy. When you sigh, you're giving yourself that moment to think and breathe. Now, you asked me that just as my puppy came by. So animals are very, very de-stressing. So having a puppy is a really good thing. He's my little love, and he's just so darn cute. Look at this little face. So that'll de-stress anybody. He wants to kiss me and he can't. So he wants to go get his ball. So having a pet is really good. I was talking about gardening. Doing things that are physical are very helpful. Walking is incredibly de-stressing. It's very therapeutic. I don't even listen to music when I walk. I just walk, and it's amazing that thoughts just come and go, and it's problems I didn't even know I have, I solve. I come up with ideas and write stuff, and so all those things are really helpful. Exercise is very de-stressing. So I think that's basically it. There's a lot that you can do to de-stress. If you can go and have a massage, that's always nice, but that's a little bit more expensive. Who doesn't like a nice massage? But basically just deep breathing, meditation. And the beauty of it is you don't have to do it for a long period of time. It's just a minute or two to just close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and just let things go. When you put things down for a moment, you find things just sort of sort themselves out. It's when we rush and when we try to move too fast and push ourselves to have the answers right away that we end up getting ourselves into more trouble. So just slowing it down for a moment can be very de-stressing. And if you look back, you know, the older you get, the more you realize that I got this far, I'm doing okay. I've solved a lot of problems in my life. I got this. I'll fix it. I'll make it happen. There's always a way through things. And then talking to a friend or asking for help is also a good thing. Music is very de-stressing. I think music is one of the most powerful things that we have to help us, whether you're listening to classical music and it can just take you away, or songs that go with your mood. So if you're feeling sad, listening to the blues or music that goes with, you know, heartbreak, it's fine because it kind of lets you wallow in it for a bit and then you get over it. So there's so many angles, and do what feels right for you, but not eating junk food. That is not helpful. It's a temptation, but it's not. In the end, it makes things worse.
So that ties into another question leading up to this evening about acne. When you see patients coming in with acne, how much do you consider these sort of components, and how do you advise them on?
Well, with acne, this is a tough one because acne can be from so many different things, right? So we know stress is a component of acne. We know more and more that diet, as we suspected, is a component of acne. It's hard to make that direct association because there's so many variables and you can't parse them out that easily. I realized, it took me a long time to realize that when people think that when you eat greasy foods it makes you break out, they think the grease goes to your skin, which does not happen. So eating pizza, unless you rub the oil on your skin, is not going to make you break out. So that alone isn't going to do it. But sometimes for some people, dairy could be a factor. So if you're eating real pizza that has real cheese made with real dairy, that could be a cause of the breakouts from the pizza. And with the dairy, it's not the milk fat that's a problem. So eating low fat, anything in the dairy is not going to be what helps you. It's the milk proteins. So it's about using just going off cow food. You can try sheep's or goats, see if it does better for you, but staying off dairy helps. Sometimes chocolate, milk chocolate, probably because of the dairy component. There are some studies that are very small that showed that the chocolate beans, the cacao in the chocolate was also a problem, but I'm not sure if I really buy that. So what I usually tell patients is have a healthier diet, more antioxidants, less sugar, less processed food. That'll contribute to the benefits. But with some of the newer treatments out there, I find that I've actually dropped my antibiotic use by over 95%. So now I use a lot of hypochlorous acid. I use combinations of salicylic acid plus the topical retinoids. We have a whole bunch of new ones out there, alone and in combination. There's so much we can do to help acne, and even spironolactone has been amazing. So that's used and FDA approved as a diuretic. But we found that for women who have a hormonal pattern of acne, I find that low dose, as low as 25 to 50 milligrams once a day, it takes 3 or 4 months for it to work. But when it kicks in, that alone can get their acne under such great control. And once they're clear, I go down to the lowest dose that keeps them clear. Accutane is another drug that is now back in the brand name, but there's also generics out that I think is a great drug for the right candidate. But not everyone's a good candidate for it. But if you're a good candidate and you wanted to try that, that's good. And another thing I do is low dose Accutane. So once somebody's all done with Accutane, if they keep breaking out over time and I don't want to keep doing courses of it, I can go down to 10 milligrams as low as once a week for some people for a year or two, and find that that controls their oil production and their acne really well. The only thing is, it doesn't matter if you take 1 pill or 5 pills. If you get pregnant while taking Accutane or for a month afterwards, you will have a deformed baby. It is a catastrophe. So the one thing you cannot do, no matter how low a dose of Accutane, no matter how infrequently you take it, you cannot get pregnant. So it's something that you have to talk to your doctor about. But otherwise, I think it's a great drug and safe when we use it the way we do. And I stay very close to my patients who are taking Accutane, so they always know that I'm there if they have any side effects or any concerns. It's that relationship that's really important.
I think your point about the milk protein is so important. You probably have been seeing during, especially this pandemic season of life, as some of my patients are healthy and they're having all these smoothies with whey protein and getting all this, and so
Yeah.
I'm get everyone on.
Oh, and then there's the mask issue. So I saw a lot of reactions around the mask, a lot of flares of acne. And actually, the other thing I was seeing around wearing a mask all the time, which I'm seeing less because people were wearing less masks, now it's kind of picking up again, are rashes around the eyes. And I realized that when people wear masks, they're touching their mask all the time. These are germ magnets, and then they touch their eyes, or else it's their breath also going up. So I was seeing a lot more chalazions and styes around the eyes when people were wearing masks all the time, but also from the friction of a mask and just your breath landing back on your skin. So for that, I've had people get the Colgate Optic White mouthwash because it has 2% hydrogen peroxide, but any mouthwash that has some hydrogen peroxide is good before you wear the mask in the morning, because that'll knock out some of the mouth bacteria, at least for a while. And then I made a product called the All Day Mask that has a barrier and zinc piconolate and niacinamide that can also help treat that. So we've sort of had to get creative and be resourceful to help our patients with maskne. And maskne is not acne. It's a different rash, it's different bacteria, it's a different form of irritation. So we have to get creative in how we treat it. And someone just asked, my dog is a Maltese. He's a Maltese.
Oh.
He's the cutest little, most delicious Maltese.
So cute. Well, we have a live question, but a question from leading up to this about scar treatment.
Yes.
Our live question is asking about a 6-month-old scar, and our previous question was asking about older scars. So what's your approach to scars?
So every scar is different. There's different types of scars. Some are hypertrophic or keloidal, where they go over the skin or grow out of the bounds of the skin. And some are atrophic, where they go under the skin. So it depends on what kind of scar. There's lots of things we can do. I find that lasers can help scars really nicely. I use a pulse dye laser and even intense pulse light, which isn't a laser, but it's heat-based that helps decrease the redness of the scar and smooth it out. And I do this a lot for people who've had tummy tucks or breast reductions who have those scars. It can take many treatments, but it works really well. Microneedling works super well on scars, and sometimes I'll combine microneedling with topical growth factors. There's a few that I like, and also topical Sculptra on top of that. As we create those wounds in the skin, what we've learned as dermatologists is we created channels into the skin, and we can control and accelerate and enhance that wound healing. So there's a lot that we can do. Sometimes using a little steroid injection to flatten the scar can help as well, but this needs to be done carefully. So there's a lot that we can do. There's a bunch of different lasers that can help, or devices. And so you can improve the appearance of a scar, whether it's new or old. but somebody needs to look at the scar, look at the location of the scar, and then help you determine what the best approach would be. But there's a lot more we can do than we used to look. And sometimes the best thing is to cut it out and make a new scar that's smaller and better. So it's a variety of options, but don't give up. If you have a scar and it's bothering you, see your doctor, and there's things that we can do. And you can go to ASDS.net to find a great dermatologist near you.
And one of the other questions was about, is there a skin product that, and you already referenced, so is there anything apart from sunscreen that you find yourself recommending across the board?
So I think most of us as dermatologists would say, besides sunscreen, because I already mentioned that one enough times and never enough times, I think vitamin A would be the next one. So whether it's retinol or retinoic acid, some form of vitamin A is really great to use on the skin. It's probably the most studied and published skincare ingredient out there. There's over 50 to 60 years of data. And the more we learn about retinoids and retinols, the more we learn that how advantageous it is for the skin. So there's a lot of myths around it. There are some myths that say that it thins the skin. And that's a myth because it actually thickens the collagen layer of the skin, which is something that we have been talking about before, about loss of collagen as we age. So if you start young and you keep using retinoids your whole life, you're giving yourself the best chance of having the healthiest collagen layer, which gives your skin firmness, plumpness, and youth. The reason why people say it thins the skin is because the outermost layer is called the stratum corneum. That's a dead skin cell layer. One of the things that using retinoids do, or retinoic acid or retinols, that vitamin A category, is it makes that stratum corneum sit more compact and flatter, which is why your skin often looks less wrinkled and more even in tone and more resilient, more radiant, because it's flatter and smoother. So when the light hits, it reflects more evenly. So that makes people say that it thins your skin, but it actually is not. The other myth around retinoids and retinoic acid is that it makes you more sun sensitive. When you put it on your skin, if you go in the sun and it's not stabilized, the sun will inactivate the product, not burn your skin. That's why we recommend using it at night. Now there's newer forms of these ingredients, of these vitamin A's, that are photostabilized, and so you can use them during the day. Now, when your skin is younger and healthier, it's always going to be a little bit more sun sensitive. That stratum corneum, if you're very fair, is going to absorb some UV rays. So you might be a little bit more sun sensitive over time because you don't have that outermost layer. But that's a very small percentage increase in sun risk of sunburn or sun damage. But it's still important, if you're using something that's making your skin healthier, normalizing skin cell turnover, lowering your risk of skin cancer in that way, that you absolutely use sunscreen every day, all year round, along with it.
And then do you find with your patients that it's true both look good, feel good, and feel good, look good? How do you do that in your practice?
Well, some of my patients come in because they feel so good and they want to try to look as good as they feel. And then some patients come in because they don't feel good and they want to try to get themselves to feel as good as they look. And so it can go both ways, and both ways are okay. We don't judge as doctors. We try to help them on both sides. But part of it is starting by seeing your beauty. And I had a patient today who's so beautiful, like so beautiful. And she was just looking at flaws the whole time. And I actually posted on my Instagram because it occurred to me, and seeing so many of my patients around COVID who came in and said, you know, I feel like I just don't look good. And I think it was all that stress and uncertainty of, you know, how long are we going to be locked down, and am I going to be okay? Is my family going to be okay around COVID? That's a lot to deal with all at once. And we all went through this collectively, a lot of uncertainty and pain and fear all at once. And it made people feel like they don't look good. So what it made me realize is that, and I wrote on my Instagram, is don't waste your beauty by not seeing it. Mm-hmm. And when you look in the mirror, the first thing you should do is, well, we can't help it. The first thing we do is we go, ugh, because that's just what we do. We're DNA hardwired to look for danger and signs of problems. So we're going to see flaws. But once you get over that one quick fraction of a second hardwired instinct, look to see what you like best. Like I'm looking at you. You have gorgeous eyes. I love the way your hair frames your face. You have a beautiful face, beautiful lips. So look in the mirror, see your beauty. I love the way your brows arch and shape your upper face. So you have beautiful features, and we need to look in the mirror with kind eyes and see our beauty.
Back
And
every
all
morning
recorded.
for
And
each other.
say it again. So once you start seeing your beauty, then you can celebrate and enhance it. But if you look in the mirror and you only see flaws, then all we're going to do is take you from more flawed to less flawed. And that should never be the goal. And my thoughts on PRP as part of microneedling, I'm not a fan of it. I love PRP for hair growth, but I don't think that I haven't seen great results over years. I mean, I was following this in Europe. I go to a lot of lectures in Europe and around the world, and they've been doing it there for, I don't know, 20 years, 30 years already. They've been doing it a long time there. And I kept looking at them and their before and afters over years, and I just didn't see the results. And then here, I still don't think it does a whole lot. So I'm not a fan of topical PRP with microneedling. I don't think it does anything more than what I do. It actually does less than what I do with growth factors that I acquire, and I use very specific ones, and does less than what I do with my growth factors and Sculptra, and those are less expensive than harvesting and doing the PRP, and also less painful because we're not drawing blood. So microneedling, I think, is great. Using it with growth factors is great. Topical PRP,
I know, I'm now seeing it showing up in moisturizers, putting it in. Yeah. So prior, we had a question about rosacea, and we have 3 minutes left, but any quick pearls about someone who has that?
Somebody who has rosacea, I would say, know that it's not your fault. It's something that you grow into. So a lot of people say, you know, I didn't have this as a kid. Why do I have this now? I'm like, well, some things you don't get till later. It's like, how lucky you didn't have it before. But rosacea is usually a late 20s, early 30s and 40s kind of a issue that comes up. And people can confuse it with acne at first. But it's different than acne because it's not bacterial related. And we know, unlike acne, we know that there's triggers, things that can make it worse, like extremes in temperature and heat, and alcohol is a huge one, stress, another one for stress. And sometimes it's combinations of triggers. And then you'll have your own personal triggers. Like I have some rosacea. My personal trigger is vinegar. So when I eat vinegar, that's when I see my rosacea. I had one patient, her personal trigger was her mom. Every time I was like, oh, you spent time with your mom again. There's your rosacea. So it can be almost anything. Tomatoes and nightshades, like eggplant, tomatoes can be it for some people too. So if you can identify your personal triggers, obviously try to avoid them. But we have great medications for rosacea now. We have topical ivermectin. Metronidazole is a tried and true medication that works amazingly well for some people. And with rosacea, we can see a few different things. We can see just pure redness and flushing. We can see a breakout that looks like acne, but typically doesn't have the blackheads or whiteheads of acne. We can see a fullness of the nose called rhinophyma. And we can also see it in the eyes, a form of ocular rosacea. So if you have a gritty feeling in your eyes, that could be a sign of rosacea. One of my favorite medications for rosacea is low-dose time-release doxycycline. So it has no antibiotic effect. I've actually been taking that for 15 years. I think it also helps against wrinkles and things too. And the brand name is Oracea, but there's a generic of it as well. And I find it does wonders for rosacea in my patients, and also helps ocular rosacea. And as a side, it also helps against bleeding gums. So it does a lot, but it also helps rosacea. So there's a lot you can do, and of course, sun protection and healthy diet.
Oh, we have someone who listens to your book.
Oh, thank you.
Stress relieving, educational, beautifying experience.
And I do like Olay. I love Olay as a brand. See, great drugstore brands.
More than ever, I feel. Drugstore brand. So it's 8:59. You're almost at. Thank you for your generosity of time and experience sharing with all of us. You are a beauty and brains inspiration, I'm sure, to your patients, your colleagues. You're all united in that field. So maybe as we conclude, we should all take one of those that you mentioned. So good.
Feels good.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you to the ASDS for hosting. We will save this video and watch later if you missed any of it. And I look forward to seeing you soon, I hope.
Me too. See you soon.
All right,
Bye. Thank you to the ASDS. Bye.